All right, Mr. Shannon Hartsfield on episode 15 of Shop Talk. I really appreciate you spending some time with us today. I'm really looking forward to this interview. I want to do two things with this interview. First of all, you are fourth generation Eastpoint, fourth generation oysterman, seafood worker. So I really want to talk about growing up here. We have mutual friends, Mr. Ricky Banks, Mr. Chris Rose. I'm sure you got a story or something you can share with Mr. Ricky. His son River's one of my best buds, so I can only imagine how much fun you guys had growing up here in Eastpoint. So I'd love to talk about that. But also, in addition to all that, as I just mentioned, you being so involved in the oyster industry, being fourth generation, is something your dad did, I'm sure your granddad did. You were learning that trade, and then to see that bay decline, I'd love to talk about that. And you were heavily involved in trying to restore that bay. You were working with FSU and biologists, and want to really get into the nuts and bolts of all that and talk about that. But before we do, I know you don't drink coffee, so I got another gift for you. Should have brought it over before we got going. But I got you a Bayside t-shirt, and what's cool about that, if you open it up, the back is an oysterman Tongan.
You know, I've seen somebody wearing a shirt. It looks good. You've done a really good job on it.
So when we bought this place, you know, as you know, is an old oyster house.
But I'm a big boy.
I probably got an XL for
I know it.
But, you know, this whole wall was lined with oyster stalls. And I just love the history. You know, I love especially the history in this community. It's so rich, so much culture, so much heritage. And so we want to keep that alive. That's why we got the tongs hanging. The shucking station's still here. But again, you know, so many folks come in the shop, especially folks who are just now vacationing here, and they don't quite understand the history or the hard work that goes into getting those oysters off that bay into, you know, their platter. You know, when they sit down at the restaurant at Lynn's or Red Pirate or Station or whatever it is, they just know those oysters are so good. They don't understand the heritage and the history behind them. So that's why I really am excited to talk to you. So before we get going, what was it like growing up here, man? What was Eastpoint like back in the day?
Man, being in the seafood industry, most everybody knew everybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, you pretty much were small schools. You knew people from Carabel, you knew people from Appalachia, and you had friends, a lot of friends. And when you get older, you don't appreciate what you got at the time. And as you get older, you're like, man, we had a good childhood. You know, I run around with some really good people. Ricky Banks, Brad Segree. I hung tight with them a lot. Me and Ricky butted heads a bunch of times.
No way.
Oh, no. But, I'll tell you a little story about Ricky. I think it was in fourth grade, and Ricky can't help himself. He is a jokester.
Oh, just like River.
And he cleaned up a lot.
Okay.
But anyway, we was in lunchroom one day, and I want to say there was 5 or 6 of us there. And he told us a joke, and I was drinking chocolate milk, and I laughed, and it shot out my nose and shot all over him. He got mad. I said, "It's your fault." But shoot, we used to run up and down the streets and stuff. As a kid, you could come down to the channel and hang out at the channel and not get in trouble. You know, nowadays you can't go to the channel without getting, you know, somebody saying, "Oh, you don't get on my piece of property," right. or you shouldn't be here. You know, it wasn't none of that kind of stuff. You know, we were good kids. We didn't mess with nobody's stuff. And it would be nothing to jump overboard and swim to somebody's oyster boat and swim back and forth across the channel and stuff. You could go fishing. We hung up at the river a lot. We used to hydro slide and ski on behind oyster boats. I mean, I remember one time, I want to say it was, I know it was me, Brad Segree, and Gary Huntings. We was out messing around. I had my little oyster boat and had a 75 Johnson, had a stinger on it, had the checkered flag, black and orange checkered flag on it. And I had my cowboy was in bad shape, it had a hole in it. So we finished knocking a good hole in it and tied a rope to it, throwed the thing overboard. And we took turns driving and riding the cowboy out here in the bay.
That's awesome. We did something sort of similar. I grew up on a farm. I've talked about this a bunch on the podcast up in Rockmart, Georgia. And you kind of had to make your own fun. And we would take plywood, put 2x4s underneath it, make like little skis on it, and we'd drag it through the farm behind the 4x4, the side-by-side rather. And you know how many rocks and sticks and all that, but it was so fun. Makes you tough too. So anyway, so you guys would ride a coaling board in the river?
Oh yeah. I mean, no, we was out here in the bay.
Oh,
We done right out here in the bay. We used to hydroslide stuff. We'd pretty days. They call it East Bay.
Mhm.
We call it north of the bridge.
Okay.
Or head to bay. You know, but it wasn't nothing for us to take a little skiff and just put it over at Portsmouth Lodge and have a damn good time out there. There was, there are a lot of times. I was a little bit older than I'm about a year older than Brad, maybe a year and a half older than Gary, and so a lot of times they got to go off because I was older, and I was, we didn't ever get in trouble when they went off with me. So a lot of times, they got to go off when they normally wouldn't get to go off. But yeah, we had some damn good time out there. But we used to go up to Cassius Creek and swim and stuff. And back then, you had to have either a good truck or you had to walk. Because it was a real sandy, soft dirt road. And if you didn't have a four-wheel drive truck, or unless you had what we call some of the dune buggies, I had an old Datsun pickup truck one time and put these big old tires on the back of it, and that little thing would go anywhere.
That's awesome.
But it also left me stuck like I thought, because I went so many places with that thing. I think I was 16, and I walked all the way up to where the sheriff's department is now. There's a road right in front of it. No, it's not. It's right in front of Timothy Butler's coastline.
Okay.
You go down it, and you get a real sharp turn, and it got really bad.
Gotcha.
Well, back then, it was a long walk anywhere you went, but you can come out the Wilderness Road, Ridge Wilderness, come out in the Wilderness Road.
Okay.
But I walked back to the highway because I have a cousin that lived on CC land. So I walked back to the highway and walked all the way to his house, called my dad to come, which Bob Shiver, he went with us and pulled it out, But I hung out a lot in Appalachia. When I got to be 15, 16 years old, I went to school to Carabel, but it was a lot easier to go across the bridge than it was to go to Carabel. So a lot of times we'd go over there and hang out 10-foot hole with all them boys. And I got a lot of friends in Appalachia hung around. And Carabel, I'd stay over the weekends and stuff with, Spence Massey and those boys. And you talked about getting in trouble. You get off of them Carabel boys, they don't care.
I believe it.
But I bought my first, I was telling you about that Johnson Stinger. I was 16 when I got that boat. And it was Jinx Duval sold his little 22-foot boat. And the only thing he ever run on that thing was a 30 Mariner.
Okay.
And then I put that 75 on it.
And it was scooped.
And it lasted one summer. I beat that thing to pieces. I broke it in half. But I remember one time was up at river up at Bloody Bluff, Van Horn. We was on Martina Sand Flat, not Van Horn Flat. But anyway, we bad about mistreating each other. And I don't remember everybody was there, but I know it was me, my brother and Brad and Ricky's around about the same age. I'm 18 months older than my brother. I think Brad's a few months older than my brother, and Ricky's a few months older than my brother. But anyway, all of us up there, and there was more of us. I can't remember. And I had a Kennedy Craft, little 15-foot Kennedy Craft with a 55 on it. And we was pulling tubes, And like I said, we mistreated each other badly. But I remember, I want to say Brad was driving. I wasn't driving. I think Brad was. And then back then we used to have big boats that come up river. We had plenty of channel, and this big old daggum, about a 39-foot cabin cruiser come by. It had a swell about 4 foot. Brad whipped Ricky into it, and I guarantee you Ricky went 20 foot in the air. And he come off that tube, and he landed. We pulled over there, and he was trying to catch his breath. And we'd go try to hit on the boat. Oh, no, he was hurting. So we end up holding on to his life jacket, and he on the side of the boat. We idled back to the sand flat.
Oh, man.
We like to wreck him. We did all kind of crazy stuff like that. My parents never paid for babysitting.
Right.
If we wasn't on the oyster boat, we was at my cousin's house or my aunt's house. But I grew up a lot with Bob and Mike and Tony and Skipper. I wish Tony was adult pretty much then, and he was around, but he wasn't Bob was probably I reckon he would be a freshman or a junior you know, in high school when I would stay around there a lot. And Bob was always into the weightlifting. They all in their bedroom they had a weight bench and stuff, and which all them boys lifted weights. But Bob and Skipper was into it way more. You know, Mike was, man, he was a natural, just a natural athlete. Period. Yeah. He you know, he had the mobility. He was more serious and you know, focused. Bob, you couldn't be there long around Bob and Skipper without them having you crack up. I mean, they just couldn't, you know, they love it. They're like Ricky Banks, you know, and he's going to tell a joke, you know, and do a little, you know, does a little picking and stuff, you know. But I remember boxing Skipper. And Mike and Bob getting on Skipper for tagging me too hard, you know, but make me tough, you know. I was tough. I didn't have no older brother. I was the oldest one, you know, and we was playing football outside, you know, and of course you don't play tag, you play tackle. And,
yes, sir.
And I've been trying to tackle Skipper. Here I am 10 years old, and he's 13, 14 years old. You know how that is. But I was giving it all, and I hit his heel on my chin and bit my tongue halfway off. And I remember Bob having to take me down to the Oyster house, get word Uncle Lloyd's going to kill him, you know. And I was like, Uncle Lloyd, I was begging. I couldn't really talk. My tongue all swelled up, and I was begging him not to kill Bob. Uncle Lloyd put the belt on them boys. My dad put the belt on our butts, you know. We didn't mind. We got it, you know. Sir. I think that's part of the problem with some of these kids is kids talk back to parents.
They do. And
I grew up. My kids grew up. My grandson, if he talks to you, it's yes sir, no sir. Mm-hmm. You know, and kids lost that respect. You know, and then that when you don't respect nobody, it's not that's what gets you in trouble
for sure.
You know,
I think they've also lost that work ethic, and they're not asking, hey, can I cut your grass for $20 or
Absolutely.
Whatever. I mean, I don't know what's changed, but.
I worked at oyster houses. I worked at shrimp houses. You know, all these boys, I grew up with, they didn't sit on their butt, sit at home. You didn't have very many. You had a few parents that had, would give to their kids, but not very many.
Yeah.
And most all my friends and stuff, they didn't get nothing handed to them. You know, some of them got it a little bit easier. Right. You know, parents had, done a little bit more that way, help them get a vehicle and stuff, And I think my dad is like, if you want it, you got to earn it and buy it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had a bunch of ragged out vehicles, and as you progress to get older, and but I grew up in sports, heavy in sports, and Bob Shiver, and I'd be at his house every afternoon, just about it. He lived on CC Land Road, and I'd jog down to. I live by the elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
My dad used to own the house here on Island Drive, right behind the old water and sewer used to be. It's a Gull little shop out there. I lived there for like 4 or 5 years, and then the place I got right now, my parents got right next door to me. Since I was about 15 years old, I've been there, But I used to jog all the way down to CC, and he'd way down there closer to the end and lift weights with Bob and come all the way back. The only time it was every once in a while, Bob give me a ride home. We do a leg workout.
And you got jello
legs. Most time you walk around like jelly. Yeah, there wasn't no walking back home. Definitely wasn't jogging back home. Right.
I think River still has he has a record or two at Port St. Joe High School for weightlifting. But like you were saying, like he cuts up just like his dad, but he also gets hyper focused when he's got a goal, he's not going to let anything get in front of him.
River's a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
Now a lot of people don't realize it, but Tyler is just like his daddy.
Okay.
Tyler is he can crack you up. He has these little comments he makes, you be like, what?
He gives it to me in here sometimes.
But I'll tell you a little story about River. We always hunt around each other and stuff. We was hunting a lot in the river one year. I want to say River was about 10, so Tyler had to be around 8, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And we always camped down there at Smith Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And Timothy and them had houseboats and stuff. Anyway, it was all one day we was all hunting and stuff, and Ricky and them left early, and Ricky, River, man, he'd catch any critter that he'd come across.
Sure
He caught this big old oak snake. And my wife come unglued. She had that big old oak snake, and he was showing off, and that thing reached over and bit him on the arm. And my wife went, she oh my God, I got to the house, I got to the landing, and all I could hear Ricky up there laughing. And she tell, they're all right. They do it all the time,
Man.
Them boys catching gators, frogs, whatever they come across, they would catch. But Tyler Gilbert, I think he was about 9 years old, and it's kind of funny. I run across him not long ago. He brought it up. He said, "Mr. Shannon," he says, "I remember I got to kill my first deer with you."
That's cool.
But there's a little story with this. We was at the houseboat. We all of us guys gather up in the morning time, eating breakfast and stuff. Anyway, we was all out there, get stuff ready, and I was over talking with the boys. I like to joke around with them stuff, and Tyler Gilbert thought it'd be cute. He popped me between the legs. I grabbed hold of that little turd and I tore his tail up. And he goes in there and tells his daddy, he said, "Well, you must have deserved it."
Mm-hmm.
Well, we went on hunting that day, normal things, and we went way to the north. And I'm like, I'm going back. I'm going to the camp. We're just BSing, just hanging out and shit. And little Ricky Halfcock was on the boat with me, and I drank me a few beer. Anyway, Tyler goes, "I want to go up to the camp. I'm bored." Tyler and River Banks done left, and then a couple, I think it was another kid there, but a little bit older. But they was all kind of like buddies and hung out with each other a little bit when we was all hanging out. So he wanted to go on back to the camp where he could get out and do something, get on the boat. So he got on the boat with me, and we was coming back down the river, and sure enough, there was a daggum nice 6-point swimming across the river. I got him ready and got him set up. He got to kill that 6-point. And he got on the radio after we got him out. First, he was worried about it. He said, "Oh, it's going to sink. It's going to sink." It was over by the bank and all. We got it in the boat, and he got that radio and hollered at his daddy, "I got to kill me a 6-point. I got to kill him." And they thought he was joking. And I got there and I said, "Nope, he got to kill him a 6-point. And Tyler, the next day, he goes, "You want to give me a whipping?"
I
think the next day I had Tyler and River on the boat with me.
Give me a good luck licking. I actually killed my first Florida 6-point this year after hunting Tatesville for 5 years now. It's tough hunting. But what was so special about it, my son's 7, and he's starting to really get into it too. So we went out the day before and scouted. We've been scouting a good bit. And he found some fresh poop. He found some tracks. He found the right tree for us. And when I brought that thing home, I mean, you could just see him light up. And I can't wait until next year to get him into a blind and really teach him how to do all that. And I think that's a skill that we got to keep sharing, because I don't think when they're that young they really appreciate it a whole lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, when they shoot their first doe or their first buck, it's awesome. But when they, in retrospect, like my daddy or my friend or whoever took me hunting and got me into something I can do forever.
Right.
And it's such a cool thing.
Well, see, my son. My son and daughter, we always camped, we always hunted, and my son didn't really care too much for hunting. He liked to go squirrel hunting, he killed squirrels, but as far as deer hunting, almost all of his buddies has killed a deer with me. I've always, he's had the opportunity, to shoot it, and he just like, I'll regularly let Kyle do it, but they've all got to kill a deer with me one time or another. Cool. My daughter's killed deer. My son, not so much. but my grandson, he loves it. He's got to kill his first deer when he was, I think he was 9, still hunting with his daddy.
Cool.
But he got to kill his first dog running buck last year, a 3-point with me. And he got to kill one this year, an 8-point with me.
That's awesome.
It was at the very last day of the season, but he got to kill it, and it's funny. Now he killed a bunch of hogs. He got to kill a bunch of hogs. And the first day we went hunting, he got a shotgun at his mama and a shotgun at his daddy's. But he got off the bus and came to the house, and I'm like, we got up early. I said, I got a shotgun. So he killed his first hog with my 3.5 this year.
That's awesome.
First time he shot that 3.5. And I told him, I said, when you shoot it, you hang on to that gun.
That's right.
But he's killed several hogs, and he killed that buck with that 3.5.
That's cool.
At 8-point. I got laughing. Tanner Moses, he said, give me a gun. So I tossed him out 3.5, and he went and shot that 3.5. He come back, he said, don't you ever give me that gun. Yeah. Oh, it bruised him good. That night he sent a picture to me, it bruised up shoulder. I laughed at him. I said, it didn't even leave a red mark on my grandson.
That's awesome.
Tyler's real pale, flected, red hair, and he's tall, slender young man. And my grandson, he's 5 foot. I think he's 5'10". He's 211 pounds. He's a cornbread fed, easy going, laid back, and he's a horse.
That's awesome.
And he'll shoot anything you hand him. But I tell you, he was excited, but I think I was more excited. I was so freaking excited, and I had it in my head. I said, as soon as I hear a dog, I'm gonna get my phone out and I'm gonna video it. If you miss it or not, And when all that shit started going on, I forgot all about that damn phone. He's up on the dog box. I'm standing there by the truck. I'm looking, and I said, "Oh, get ready! They're coming to us. It's coming to us." And sure enough, that thing popped out, and he led it too much on the first one. Got into it just a little bit, and then when of course, there's another truck down the road, and this is where I was like, I was a little bit nervous. We preach it to them all the time, but until they actually do it, you don't know. But as soon as that thing hit the road, he waited, and as soon as it hit this other side, he got into it again, and there was a little clearing over there, and he finished it off. When it hit the open, it cleared, and I was so excited, and it was all set down. We got out there at the deer, and I looked in, and Chandler Moses was over on their lease down at Howard Creek. He was excited for him. He goes, man, he says, he done just like he's supposed to. He never pointed that gun at us or nothing. And I was a little bit nervous. He said he took his son and kind of blocked him in case, you never know. Even though they're up on a dog box too, you never know how kids actually react. Right. Like I said, you could preach all you want until they actually do it. Right. And he done everything like he's supposed to. And it made me feel really good. Yeah. And I was so excited. It was unreal. I'll show you some pictures.
Sweet. Love to see them.
I'll send them to you if you want me to.
Yeah, please.
But it was an 8-point, but the Brow Times had got broke off fighting. Mm-hmm. And earlier in the year they had a picture of it. It had broke off one of the points on one side. Well, it had then broke off the other side, so it was a little messed up. 8-point.
Was this in January-ish?
This was just the end of hunt season, and then the lease has 2 more weeks. Okay. So it was the end of January, I think.
There's a late rut here. I'm used to November ruts in Georgia.
Yeah, see, it's totally everywhere. I mean, even South Florida, Mid Florida, and North Florida is different. Yeah. Georgia's rut and Florida's rut's different. Mm-hmm. Alabama's rut's different than Georgia's rut. It's crazy how that works, And really, when our season really ends at the end of the year, our rut's really just starting to come in. Right. So we went over to their lease and hunted. It was a full thrive. I mean, it was deer going everywhere.
That's awesome.
But he almost didn't go that last day. He's like,
that's how it is.
I said, well, it's your choice. I don't make him do nothing. I said, well, if you're not going to go, let me know. And I can call Chandler and tell him I'm not going to come. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I ain't going if you ain't going. I said, have I got a gun out yet this year? No. I said, I'm letting you kill him. I'm not killing him. I've killed a lot. And it was out. This is what's funny though. He had his shotgun in the truck with us, but he done put his shotgun up and had my shotgun. Because every time he's pulled the trigger, he's been killing.
That's right.
And he like that 3-point he killed last year. It went 200 yards in there. They had to drag it out.
Man, that's what I love about this place. It's a sportsman paradise. If you love to fish, if you love to hunt, if you love just to be in nature, if hunting or fishing is not your thing, whatever, nature. And there's something so rewarding about catching your own fish, taking it home and eating it. Something so rewarding about harvesting your own deer or your hog or your turkey and sharing that with your friends and family. I mean, I can't think of a more ethical, clean meat than going and harvesting your own, and then sharing that with your family.
Freezer full of hog meat and deer meat, But like you said, your son was 8 years old?
7.
7 years old.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
see, it won't be long. You'll be able to let him. You'll be working in the summertime, and he'll be able to go down to the fish pier with a couple of his buddies and fish.
That's gonna be great.
You know, and this is what's so good about nowadays. It's easy to contact them and keep up with them and stuff, and make sure everything. You know, it's just convenient. You know, I mean, you bet just about can let him go to the daggum boat ramp, and you can pretty much look out the window and see if he's on the floating dock. You know,
right.
But kids get more opportunity, especially in small towns. But kids that loves outdoors, you see them out.
Yeah.
But you got so many kids you don't hardly ever see.
I know it.
They don't come out of that house. And they get home from school and they own game systems.
I've talked about this before too on here with Mr. Rex actually. We try to go to the beach like once a week when it's warmed up because I got a 1.5-year-old. You can just let him run. And then Henry's really getting into surf fishing, and I love just being on the beach catching some sun and enjoying it. And you'll see kids out there under the umbrella on their iPad the whole time. And I'm like, you're here for a week. Why wouldn't you want to soak this up? Why wouldn't you want to enjoy that nature and go get washed around in that surf for a little bit? It's really sad.
Well, I'll take Tucker and a couple of his buddies. Like we went and stayed down at the state park one weekend, and he took 2 of his buddies. So I had 3 kids, and they hardly ever was on their phone. The only time I was in the phone was hanging out in the camper.
Yeah.
You know, or they was taking pictures and stuff. But we was down at the beach, they didn't take no phone because they was going in and out the water, fishing, you know, having a daggum good time.
Yeah.
You know, but like there's all them trails and stuff, and I'll tell them, I say, I'll take y'all's phone where I can keep contact with them,
right.
You know, going through them trails and stuff. But I let them be boys.
Exactly.
You know, we're in a good spot. You know, you got to worry about a lot of stuff than you normally would have to.
Right.
Now, in the summertime, that pier gets kind of busy, and that's you want your kid to have a group of kids,
right?
You know, that keeps any chaos going on. Yeah, but at the same time, you got to because sometimes I've been down there walking with my wife, and my wife has went down there walking, and sometimes kids being kids is smart asses, you know, and not being respectful, and that kind of goes on, you know, so. You got to check your kids and stuff every once in a while because you want them to be respectful. You don't want to, you know, I have never been where I could show up at somebody and somebody looking at me like where I've been a smart mouth or something. That never happened.
Right.
With me, my kids, my grandson, that because they're respectful, you know. And I'm running into kids and they be smart asses.
Yeah.
You know, and they would be, but like 10, 11 years old, you know, and you'd be like, boy, you know, but it's different times now, you know, there's so many grandparents, great grandparents raising kids.
Yeah.
And it's rough, you know, it's really rough and it don't seem like it's quite as bad as here, but it's everywhere. And this little town's changed a lot. I mean, it's way different than what it used to. I mean, heck, the road I live on, they just repaved it. It's been the second time it's been paved, but I lived there on a dirt road. You know, I mean, most all these back roads, all dirt roads, and they all, you know, old paved roads. You know, and you hear these kids, you know, they're like, man, I don't want to. I said, well, you can get out there and go skateboard, and you can ride your bike. I mean, there's a lot of things you can get out there and do, especially where we live in a dead end road. You know. Kids can go out there and have fun, you know, but they don't. A lot of kids just don't do it.
I don't get it.
You know, you ride up and down the road, you see a group of kids, of teenagers, but when you know you see a few small kids, and most of the time they fishing and stuff, you see them out. You'll see a few kids riding around, you know, out in the yard playing, but nothing like it used to be.
Yeah.
Used to, when my kids were little. I mean, it wasn't nothing to go up and downtown and kids would be outside playing all over the place. Right. You had to watch them, make sure you don't run over them, you know, going down the road and stuff. But it ain't like that, you know, anymore. Most time you see kids now out about freaking 11, 12 o'clock at night. I mean, I've been going off from work and come home late at night, and it's like, what in the world? It's just different.
See, when that sun went down, that's when it was time to go home.
Yeah, there's 2 rules. When we was real young, if we were where you hollered and we didn't answer, we got in trouble.
That's right.
You know, and as you got older, you got permission to go to your buddy's house and go to different places and stuff. but you better be where you told you went, because
Exactly.
if you went somewhere else and then somebody said, "Well, Shannon was so and so," you get your butt out of the house and you have a belt waiting on you,
sir.
and you know why that belt be waiting on you. I remember one time coming from Carabel, and I want to say Brad was with me, or maybe it was Brad was in his own vehicle. We kind of raced coming back, and by the time I got to the house that afternoon, I lost a vehicle for about a week.
I believe it.
You know what I mean? He didn't play that stuff. He didn't play that stuff.
Yeah.
But parents was parents back then.
Right.
Now a lot of parents is like, man, be out of sight. Just they don't care.
Yeah. I'm a young dad, and I'm trying to navigate all that. It's tough, especially because I feel like some things have to be age appropriate.
Yes.
My 7-year-old, he's knocked over that water or that milk 100 times. It's got to be age appropriate, but there has to be discipline as well. Because
Absolutely.
if he's going to continue through life not understanding there's boundaries and consequences, I feel like that's going to translate into bad teenage years, possibly bad adult years. So it's got to start when they're young, and they got to understand boundaries and consequences.
And I'm gonna tell you something else. Kids that play sports are more disciplined.
Yes, sir.
Coaches is more lean than they used to be. That's like Franklin County. They've went through a lot of coaches, and I've seen kids walking around, walking to the sideline. I'm sitting there going, man, you didn't do that.
Right.
I mean, you hustled, or you come off the field, You set your butt on the bench.
Right.
And Coach Cooper, man, I'm excited about. He is doing a great job. He is really. Things has changed a lot. You got kids doing a lot better in athletics.
He's doing football and weightlifting, right?
Yes, he does football and weightlifting.
One of my students, Bailey, she just started weightlifting like less than a year ago.
Yeah.
She just got second in state under him. Like, that's incredible. And she's a little. She grapples good too, but now.
But
he's strong.
If you look, he puts a lot of time in it, and that's what a coach. If you're going to coach, if that's going to be your job, that's pretty much your life.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of coaches that just want to coach during school time and then go to practice that afternoon and that'd be it.
Yeah.
But he puts in the time.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. He's not working with just the varsity. He's working with junior varsity, middle school. Because that's his future coming up.
Exactly.
He's involved with all of it. And like I said, man, I'm proud of him.
That's awesome. So there's been some good changes here too.
Absolutely. There's more. I really wish that I would take the time and get more involved. But I've been helping coach a lot with my grandson, and in the last year or so, the last year I helped coach. There's parents that don't like some of the stuff that I've help. I try to do for the Bay. So and it feeds through to the kids and stuff, and I get aggravated and I don't want the kids to have to deal. That's to me it's wrong. Like this past year, it's kind of I was like, dang, it's kind of like boring sitting there. I mean, it's not boring sitting there watching my grandson, but I was more in it, help coaching.
Right.
And so I've stepped back a lot. I mean, my son, he played sports for a while. He didn't really care for it, but he was in weightlifting pretty good, And when he grew up, I helped coach. I mean, I coached years. He didn't even play. He quit, because needed coaches. And I love doing it. And I'd like to be more involved with it, but I get tired of the little comments and stuff, and so I just kind of step back. Things will get better, and because I've been focusing on this Bay trying to recover. There's some things that nobody supports everything of anybody,
right?
But I get blamed for stuff that I had nothing to do with, or I get blamed for something because I supported it in one way and in another way. I'll give you, for instance, I was like, the big thing, I've lost a lot of friends because of it when the Bay got closed down. But to back up, when I run the shelling program, when the Oysterman would put material back in the Bay, we got the opportunity to do something that FDAX has never done. While they was putting material back in the bay, we went back to the natural bottom.
Okay.
The bars.
Right.
And we was doing it. Well, if we would have got good material, which I got blamed for the material, which I had nothing to do about, we fought it trying to get a different material. You know, but the first place we planted was Eastpoint. We planted 42 acres. All right, it was closed. It was closed from 2012 to 2015, and it done really good. And when it opened up in 2015, it didn't last very long because it went from having around 200 oystermen to having 500 or 600 oystermen. I mean, it was nothing to see 3-4 people on a boat, and it just got called up in 2 days.
Yeah,
it was open for 4 days, the month of May, and the first 2 Fridays only open on Friday. And the first 2 Fridays almost wiped it completely out.
Wow!
And then the third day it was open, there was hardly any boats over there. And it wiped it out.
And for those watching that don't understand, oysters need material to grow on. So when you talk about material, you're talking about restoring stuff in that bay for those oysters to grow on.
Correct.
So let's back up just a hair. How old were you when you started noticing a decline in oysters? And what's your perspective for that decline? Because in talking to folks around here, it sounds like the water wars, Florida and Alabama and Georgia, suing each other because of lack of fresh water coming down
for many a year.
2007, was that the oil spill? That
probably no, 2010 with the oil spill.
Okay,
but let's just go back to the when that lawsuit ended. Like in I want to say 2020 or maybe 2021. No, 2001.
2001?
I think somewhere in there, 2000 or 2001 is when the lawsuit finally ended against Alabama. It might have been a little bit earlier than that. I might have my timeline wrong. But anyway, that lawsuit went on for almost 20 years when it stopped. And then when you asked about the decline of it, when it seemed like just in a few years, because see, I got off the bay for about 3 years from 23, 24, and 25. I was working at Seminole Construction, being a nail supplier, a repairman. I used to repair nail guns, air compressor stuff, and supply nails and fasteners and stuff. So I did that for 3 years. Because in 2023, 2022 and 23, it was struggling out there. I mean, we was already struggling. I mean, it just wasn't that good.
Is 2003?
2003.
Okay.
I said 23. I'm sorry. I'm bad about that. But 2003, I got off the water and I worked with Seminole Construction. I went back in 2005, end of 2005. So it was really 2005, 6 year. And I'm like, and it wasn't too bad. And then into 2006 and 7, we had our first major drought.
Okay.
Before we used to have, even though we was in a drought, we would get some fresh water. Well, it's the first time that we got shut off from fresh water.
Okay. And
then the last year I worked dry bar was 2008. I mean, you couldn't hardly go over there and catch 5 bags of oysters. And used to, you Cat Point and dry bars where everybody, because we was a half shell bar. After 99, after 1991, we pretty much went to a half shell stock. Everybody wanted our oysters to put on raw bars because they was a nice cup oyster, had real good texture and flavor. So that's the reason we were known so much for Apalachicola Bay oysters, because they were as a live oyster bar type oyster.
And at one time, this was the oyster capital of
the world.
Was
the oyster capital of the world. We was 90% of the oysters in the state of Florida came from right here. Yeah. We were well known. And when it started going downhill, it started going down quick. We've seen it in 2007. We've seen a big difference. Then 2008 year was struggling. Then in 2009, I went the end of that because they opened up in October, Louisiana, Calcasieu Lake. They opened up in October. So, and I've had license over the years a bunch of times, out of state license in Louisiana. I go work Louisiana, and I can be out there. I work most time 5-6 months and come back.
Okay.
And that particular year, when the BP oil spill come, we was having. I couldn't hardly make $100 here in 2009. I mean, I was struggling to make $100. Mm-hmm. And so I went out to Louisiana. So 2009, end of 2009, from October to the BP oil spill. 2 weeks after the BP oil spill, where I was working out, it was coming in. The ships was coming in, and they had oil on their ships. They closed the bay. So I came back here to Oyster. And when I came back, it was like, man, a blind eye was turned. Mm. The guys that I knew that really didn't even oyster that much, man, they was catching a boatload of oysters. And what happened was it sped it up to where it was going to happen anyway, but it sped it up even quicker because we started catching way too many undersized oysters. Right. So we sped itself up. We started having an issue where the oysters wasn't spatting. We wasn't getting enough of spat in the bay to reproduce what we was catching. Because I mean, people don't realize it, but in any given day, there would be between 450 and 500 boats out here oystering.
Wow.
And by the time I quit my last, I went oystering 2 months in 2013 is when I quit oystering, and I started running. I actually got hired because they needed somebody. So the Seafood Workers Association, I became the president of the Seafood Workers Association in 10. So I stepped up there, and I'm like, man, I didn't really want to do it. And Ricky go, man, I want you to do it. Well, because Ricky didn't want to do it. Now they asked him to do it, but he, not only him, but other people asked me to do it as well. And I said, all right, I'll do it. But Ricky, you're going to be my vice president because we got appointed. We didn't have an election.
Right.
So we was appointed. So when we started, we got our board put together, and then we had a few meetings, and then we had an election. Because, you know how it is. A lot of people, why didn't he get it? Why did blah, 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 blah. I said, look, this is no problem. If somebody else wants to do it, I'm more than happy. So we had an election. And I end up still, me and Ricky, president, vice president. I mean, there's been times we had 500 people at that daggone fire station. Going, what? We got to do something. This is crazy. Something's going on. But then, of course, we had tropical storms, so we got some funding, and that's where the oystermen got to replant. We was doing that 4 days a week, and I ran the program. At the time, Moon, which is Chris Millender, and Devin Barber, we were the ones that ran the program. And then things changed as it went down, But in 2013, we asked for a closure. We asked to get a 2-year closure because we had enough of funding for the oystermen to do that for 2 years.
Right.
And actually the program ended up going, and I think the last time we went was like around 2016. That's how far the funding lasts, all the way up to 2016. But we asked for a 2-year closure because we had put a group together we called it the SMART group, which was the Seafood Management Resource Recovery Team. That's where it was 2 R's in SMART, which a lot of people make fun of that, but it's just the way it is. Chris come up, Moon, everybody knows him by Moon, but Chris, the one that came up with that. We were sitting there and we were meeting, in our office working, and it's like, we got to have somebody to represent this bay. And that we needed somebody, fish and crab and oyster and shrimp. And we had somebody that representing the leases. I mean, the aquaculture leases,
Right.
We had people representing the Seafood Workers Association. We had people representing the Dealer Association, So we had dealers, catchers, had a good mixture of a group. And it went really, really, I mean, we got a lot accomplished. It didn't seem like it. But we made a big difference having all of the agencies, because all this crap was going on, coming, sitting down, and being in the same room with each other and learning what the other one was doing.
Right.
And then I remember Jim Estes in a meeting, and Cal, I can't remember his last name, was over at FDAX then. Anyway, we had somebody representing everybody.
Right.
But we had the agencies sitting in the same room talking and discussing. And I remember Cal talking about something they had going on, and Jim Estes is sitting there going, well, I thought we did that, you know. So so the agencies was learning what other agencies, you know, we had FWC, FDAX, ANER, DEP. I mean, we had all of it sitting in the same room discussing stuff going on, you know. And when the governor came down and met with us and said, oh, we got a solution, we're going to sue Atlanta. We didn't support it.
Right.
We done seen a lawsuit go for so many years. It didn't, you know, just a bunch of money. And I would say nothing come about that lawsuit. But the only good thing that came out of that lawsuit was the special master looking at Georgia and saying, look, y'all withdrawing a lot of water. Y'all need to see what y'all can do to quit drawing so much.
Yeah.
And they have done some hurdles, you know, especially on the ag part of it. You know, they've done a lot. But like right now, we're pretty much in a drought down here in Florida. They're not so much in a drought, so they're not in drought conditions. Mm-hmm. See, if they was in drought conditions, like Atlanta and a lot of the withdrawals from the river, they like, all right, y'all can't be washing your car, you can't be watering your grass, you know, you got to cut back. If you do, you get fines, you know.
Right.
And so they're not in that right now. And like this year has been a really dry year for us, and we've been having really low flows. And man, we got some predators in our bay, you know, pretty thick and heavy right now. And now we got a little spurt of fresh water. I haven't been out there since the last day, you know, Thursday, last week of February. So I hadn't been back out there to see what it looks like now since we got this little impulse of fresh water. But we can easily turn and start going back the other way. Yeah. The bay is really showing a lot of great hurdles right now. The biggest issue, we don't have enough material out there, but whatever material we put out there is doing really good.
Yeah.
But getting back to where I was telling you about the closure, you know, we asked for a closure for 2 years. So when they came to us and say, "Oh, we're gonna close the bay," they really wasn't asking our permission or nothing. They were gonna do what they're gonna do anyway. But I supported it because we asked for it.
Right.
Now, when they did what they did, I was like, 5 years. I mean, 5 years. I'm like, man, if we do do things right, in 2 years we could be, you know, doing really good. Mm-hmm. But they didn't do a whole lot in that 5 years closed. They did just a little bit right there when it got closed, and then right before it got opened up, they went and done. I don't even want to get there. I know you done heard everybody complain about that stuff. It's not only too big a material to tone. It's created boat hazards. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's created a lot of issues. But oysters taking to it, growing to it.
Yeah.
But most of the material they planted was areas that we was forced to oyster because they grow what we call scissor-bill, which is a real thin shelled oyster. Like it really is compared to aquaculture oysters.
Okay.
You know, that's like, look,
they're farm raised.
Man, when it opened up, man, I don't know anybody was doing too good aquaculture. I mean, everybody wanted Apalachicola Bay oysters, even though they were too big. But it's gonna in the next year or so, it's gonna go back to be the average around 3.5 inch oysters. You know, so it's gonna get even better.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this next round, I'll know for sure. Everything's looking like they're going to do a better job. We'll still, you know, it's always wait and see. You know, sir. One of my biggest things I've been pushing, we don't need this company that's done come down here 3 times and has not planted the first time right. We don't need that company back down here.
Right.
You know, I mean, what they did out there was supposed to be 1 foot and 2 foot, and it is disastrous. I mean, we got areas that winter low tide, dead winter low tide, you've seen them, that we could run and never hit bottom. Now that stuff's sticking up out of water, and you get off that material, it's 3.5 to 4, 5 foot deep. There's material that's not 3.5 foot. This stuff as high as 4.5 foot, probably 5 foot in some places.
Wow.
It's just, you know, And when they was out there trying to spread that stuff after they put it out there, I was watching them. And they push a boat with an excavator on it, and it'd have a long piece of steel, not rebar, what do you call it? Beam.
Mm-hmm.
Had a steel beam on it, and they would put it in the water like they was going to rake it. But they didn't have nothing to hold them still, so all they done was just pulled themselves around on that barge, you know. I mean, if anything, what they should have done was fill that barge so much water where it'd be hitting the bottom, and then let that excavator drag it, and then could it be like a bulldozer? I mean, they would have been better off to take that beam and take a daggum tugboat and put it, behind it and let it drop down and let them push it. And then when they hit a bad spot, let it hold, they could work it and get it, knock it down. Because you could go. I do a lot of research with FSU. I've been working with them from day one. I'm jumping around too much.
You're good.
But I know what it looks like out there.
Right.
I mean, you go, it's a big pile of material, then all of a sudden you got a big old empty hole, and it's just up and down, which it needs to be up and down, but that's too much up and down. Yeah. It should be like a wave. I mean, all bottom gets shifted by the weather. It's like somebody tell you, oh man, we're going to be laying side sea today. It's going to be a struggle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'm hoping folks in listening to this conversation not only enjoyed some of those stories and get to know you better and learn about growing up here in Eastpoint and the heritage and the fun and all the things you guys did, but also the amount of work and research that really goes into those oysters, because again, like I said at the beginning, so many folks come down. Now, I'm guilty. When I come down on vacation before I moved here, you sit down, you order your oysters, you slurp them up, and you don't realize how much went into it. So,
exactly.
So it sounds like the Bay's back open, is doing good so far. We've had 2 months of open season. It's closed down now, but it reopens, I think, October.
Supposed to open back up in October.
So looking to the future, what are your, as we wrap up here, what are your thoughts on oystering moving forward and Eastpoint moving forward?
Well, so far, it's looking like, how can I word it? I'll tell you what this. I'm part of the partnership now, which we got the community with the science and all there. We need more people there, though. We need more people coming in and putting effort in it. Since what they did this last planting, they're listening to us a little bit more.
Good.
But we'll know more as it progresses. We don't know exactly how much they're going to listen to us. But if they'll start focusing on the areas that we traditionally harvest oysters for half-shell oysters, I see it going forth and getting better.
Good.
This was just a drop in a bucket. And this was just it's only 4 areas they opened up. There's a lot of more areas they smaller though because they wasn't planted right.
Right.
And that was sort of a big issue. Planted right. I am been focusing on trying to get somebody local, just hiring local guys. Everybody goes, oh, we can't do that. We can't do that. Well, you actually can not let that guy get it because he hadn't done it right the first time. So that should take him out of the equation and give it opportunity to somebody else to do it, So hopefully we get somebody local starting to get it. Not only creates local jobs, you got local people doing it. You got people look, there ain't hardly anybody that grew up in Franklin County that has not been out there oystering one time or another.
Yes, sir.
Either they tried it to see what it was like, saying, hey, I ain't doing this shit. It's harder than hell, or go out there and try it and make you a living doing it,
Right.
It is what it is. But in the future, if it gets where those 5 months, and it's set to change, where you can harvest oysters for that 5 months, there's an opportunity to a lot of people that has a lot of different jobs here that has a pretty good job in the summertime to get through the wintertime. And then we'll see how it progresses and changes from there. But that's just like our summer bars. There's no summertime harvesting. They put a lot of work in it. There are some really good oysters over there. There's some really good oysters over there. And the facts is everything we've seen, there is getting more fresh water is doing the best.
Good.
The type of oyster is doing better. And so whatever caused because it wasn't just lack of fresh water, there was some other issues going on that happened. I don't know if something come down that river. I feel like something come down that river caused a lot of it.
All that pollution from the
But
Chattahoochee.
our bay is back alive. It's doing really good.
That's good to hear.
So if everybody will sit back and relax and try to go forth and get more involved with what with the partnership. I'm not just saying partnership because I say partnership because we're getting to talk directly to FWC and FDAX.
Right.
You know, and they're slowly kind of listening to us, and I see it getting better.
Yeah.
You know, everything seems like it's working better. So I see, and maybe not next year or the following year, but in 3 or 4 years, I see making a decent money for 5 months. And hopefully with that said, things will get changed up where it could, I don't know if it ever come year time oystering again, but back to where, you know, I grew up when it was just wintertime oystering.
Mm-hmm.
June, July, and August, it was closed. I mean, I grew up when I was a kid, my dad crabbing in the summertime.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, it was a whole lot. That's the reason I got into fishing more, because I hated oystering in the summertime. And anybody that said they loved oysters in the summertime, they ain't got all their screws upstairs. Because it's rough oystering in the summertime.
I bet.
Especially when they change it to that 12 o'clock law.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, this is what's funny. When they was talking, you know, I kind of supported limited entry, but I was thinking the number's bigger, you know. But there's a lot of guys, and the guys that's working full time used to get all upset where they take their vacation week off and first winter months open up, or the first week of summer bars open up. You know, they take off a couple of weeks, and you would have an extra as many as 70 to 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
Those first 2 weeks.
Wow.
You know, and they would be all upset about it. But it didn't make it hard for the guys that was making a living all through the year, because all of a sudden all the what we call the gravy was gone, and you struggled.
Right.
You know, so it's like anything. As we progress, things change, and you're just going to have to get used to it.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's no way around it. And that's why a lot of people don't like me, because I support the change. Without having the change, we're not going to have that bay.
Right.
You know, I know a lot of people are upset about different things I support, but I don't support everything. And I'm verbal about it. If anybody wants to talk to me, I'll talk to them.
Right.
And if you want to get mad at me for something I actually do support. You know, I supported the closure. Yes, I did. 5 years? No, I didn't. And then no more what they did in those 5 years. And of course, COVID was to blame, even though Florida was not a shutdown state.
Right.
You know, and I it's like anything. And it happens with local people. They look for an excuse to poor me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and any working man in this whole damn state of Florida knows you ain't getting nothing for free if you want something. Now, if you don't want nothing, then you just getting by. You don't care. And I'm tired of those that don't care being part of the issue, part of the problem. You know, good people that want to make a decent living and live halfway healthy. I mean, I'm tired of oystering. Man, should go find the first drunk we can find. Interview. You know, I'm tired of that kind of stuff.
Right. Because
if they have a problem, and I'm not going to go into all the meth and all that crap, but oyster made it easier for them guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now I've heard them say, "Oh, the reason they're doing it because they can't go oystering." They're the same ones that was doing other issues. They were doing other things. There's people that moved here that you'd be like, where in the world they come from? They're walking up and down the streets, don't have a care in the world. You know,
I see it around Washington.
So
my shop
look, I'm not the best person in the world, and I'm not, you know, the hardest worker in the world. But if you can't hold your head up high, I can go anywhere in this damn county. Yeah, I'm gonna have somebody get mad at me, holler at me or something or whatever, but my head's high because I ain't done nothing but support that bay.
That's right.
And another reason people are like, oh, you should have. Every time any decision I made, if it wasn't in a group that we voted on, because I never done anything that we didn't vote on, I always had support of elders. You know, I listen to my elders.
That's very important.
And I have very few guys that I call elders that's over 65 years old that used to make their living in this bay. I listen to them, you know, and with the bay closure, Mr. Fred is not here. I love that man to death. I grew up, a lot of my high school years, I got to go hunting and stuff because of him. Because my dad didn't hunt, you know. I respect him. And Mr. Coley Shiver.
All right, y'all. I want to apologize about that abrupt ending to the interview. We had some technical difficulties and lost about 5 minutes towards the end there as we were wrapping up. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. You know, look, we're not high tech here at Bayside. This is all brand new to me as far as the interviewing and the equipment and all that stuff. And you guys have just been showing so much love that we're going to get better equipment, better production, and just spend more time doing this sort of thing, because I love sharing the history and the stories and the culture here. There's just so much uniqueness to it. I hope you guys are starting to pick up that vibe. And, you know, again, Mr. Shannon and I could have gone on for hours. He's just so full of knowledge about that bay. He's so passionate. He's been so involved and worked so hard, not only as a child growing up oystering, but then when the bay started to decline, he was doing everything he could with the right folks, right agencies to protect that bay, protect the heritage, protect livelihoods of people. And I hope you guys saw that. I hope you enjoyed it. I love bringing this content to you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe, and that only helps the channel out. And as we keep growing, again, the equipment's going to get better. The production's going to get better. I appreciate you guys starting with us from ground zero and kind of building this thing. And I'm really excited to see how it keeps going. Thanks again, y'all. Much love.